Okay, in this video, I'm going over the main card of UFC Fight Night, Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. The fight night in general was pretty mixed. Some cool finishes, some decisions, some boring fights, some really cool fights. And we're going to get into the main card in this video because it's the one I predicted. I did okay I actually did pretty good on predictions, besides the main event, which was delusional, but we'll get to that. We'll start with Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. So I went with Ronaldo Rodriguez. I thought he had all the momentum going in this fight, and I thought he fooled me. I know he beat Ode Osborne in a not like a great, super convincing way, but he beat him, and I thought he, with all of the star power he's had, with all the Instagram followers he has, I thought he would be like in that fucking training camp, really honing his skills in. But in reality, he didn't do anything he needed to do in this fight. Kevin Borjas did exactly what he needed to do, and Ronaldo Rodriguez did exactly what he didn't need to do. That's pretty much the story of this fight. Kevin Borjas was super slick on the feet the entire fight. Straight shots down the pipe, right hand was money all fight long. Ronaldo Rodriguez was throwing anything but the basic shit. He was throwing spinning wheel kicks in fucking punch range. He was throwing this like jumping switch kick in the like as close you can be to the guy as possible. He was throwing all this fancy shit when he needed to just not, and he needed to grit down and throw like basic stuff or mix it up at all. But he just kept throwing like random flashy shit in an attempt to look good or maybe like clip farm, and it didn't work. Kevin Borjas was lethal, and he just did everything right. He shut down Ronaldo Rodriguez completely. He kept every single time Ronaldo would try to come in, Kevin would blast him with the right hand and back him up. And that was the entire fight long. Kevin Borjas hit every single shot, every single better shot he needed to. And Ronaldo Rodriguez didn't hit really anything special. So yeah, Borjas clearly won dominantly. I gave him all 3 rounds, and I'm pretty sure the judges did too. Actually, I think a couple judges or one gave it to Ronaldo, gave one of the rounds to Ronaldo, which is crazy to me because I thought he did pretty much nothing the whole fight. So good for Kevin Borjas. Unexpected, at least for me. Next, David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. So, David Martinez is fucking insanely good. There's a lot of hype because of the knockout, but I think he's fucking awesome. He's very aggressive on the feet. Simon Oliveira looked very scared the whole time. He looked timid for as long as it lasted, which wasn't very long. A minute 4:38 in the first round. 28 total strikes to 7, 27 to 7 significant strikes. David Martinez dominated this fight until the knockout, which was very early. All on the feet. Simon Oliveira went for some clinch work, but it just like no, he didn't do anything with it at all. So David Martinez was able to be aggressive and caught him with a slip right hand and dropped him bad. And it was a sick KO. And I'm excited to see what he does next. Next, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vince Morales. So this was lame. This killed the momentum of the card to me. Raul Rosas Jr. is boring. He came out with some spunk in the first round. He was backing him up. He always does that, though. He comes out really aggressive, throws some hands, but he instantly shoots for a takedown every time, which would be good if he had any aggression on the ground at all, which he really doesn't. Raul Rosas Jr. knows how to control a guy, but he doesn't do damage off when he's laying on his opponent. Like, he doesn't do damage from top control. He goes for submissions, but he's a very big control heavy, boring ass motherfucker. It's kind of seeming Raul Rosas Jr. is kind of going that direction, especially as competition's going to get better. I don't imagine Raul Rosas doing more damage to these people. Vince Morales might be the cap of where Raul Rosas will be going in the future because it was pretty close. Vince had his moments, and he might have won a round, but Raul Rosas Jr. did have the better grappling and controlled him. And that was pretty much the story of this fight, was Raul Rosas controlling the grappling. And Vince did a good job in the third round especially, but Rosas just held him down. Damage-wise, you could make a little bit of argument for Vince Morales in a couple rounds, I would think, but overall the control was crazy from Raul Rosas. Vince Morales in the third round he got Like, I thought Vince, I know he didn't win the third round, but he went for 2 submission attempts that were pretty much locked in, and Raul Rosas didn't do very much from the top control, is all I'll say. Because Vince got 2 Darce chokes at 2 minutes apart in the round that were fucking deep both times. And if Raul Rosas didn't look like he did, I think he might have tapped. Or passed out. So, this is kind of a hype killer for Rosas. He has Chiwiwis, which is really funny, and it's still going to be really funny in the future for me, at least. But I don't see him going much further in terms of competition. He's already got beaten by Christian Rodriguez, who got pretty much shit on earlier in this card. I don't see Raul Rosas beating a top 15 guy. I'm not going to lie. He maybe could beat a couple, but bantamweight is rough, and especially these grapplers. There's a lot of good grapplers at bantamweight. There's a lot of people that won't get fucking, like, he gets obliterated by fighters like Song Yadong, even like a Henry Cejudo probably. A Peter Yan would murder him. So, I don't see him going, those are very good fighters though, with that being said. I don't see him doing amazing in the UFC going forward. But he could prove me wrong. He's only 20. He has a lot of time to improve. So, we'll see. I'm sure he has a fucking diamond chin with his... I'm sure that's the bonus for his looks. There has to be a bonus. So yeah, good for Raul Rosas next. Edgar Chairez versus CJ Vergara. I went with Raul Rosas, by the way, and David Martinez. Edgar, I didn't get to pick this fight because it was on the prelims, and I don't do the prelims. So Edgar Chairez smoked CJ Vergara. He went out there. It was tit for tat on the feet for a second, and then Edgar threw a left hook, dropped CJ Vergara bad, capitalized, and submitted him by rear naked choke on the jaw of CJ Vergara and pretty much just shit on him. And it was very easy for Edgar. I would have picked Edgar. I am not just saying that. I would have picked Edgar Chairez to win. And yeah, total strikes were 8-6. Significant strikes were 8-6. It was a very short fight, which Edgar Chairez caught CJ Vergara and submitted him. So good for him. He is old, isn't he? One second. I'm pretty sure he's fucking... Oh, he's only 29. Never mind. No, he could do some good stuff in this UFC shit. So, good for Edgar Chairez. He did pretty good in his last fight. Yeah, next. Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. I picked Manuel Torres. I thought Drew Dober wasn't going to have any advantage, really. He's getting older. He's getting more weathered. And that's just the case. Manuel Torres looked really good. He's always looking for the finish. He's very aggressive and slick, and just he's a very good striker. And Drew Dober is getting older. He wings hooks, and his chin isn't looking good. It's looking great, but it's not holding up well. And Manuel Torres showed that in this fight. They got wild for a second. Then Manuel Torres reined it in, caught him with a right hand, dropped him bad, and then hammer-fisted the fuck out of the side of his head. And I thought it was a good stoppage. People are screaming that it was a late stoppage. I thought Drew Dober was still, I thought it was a good stoppage. It was a little late, but I like the idea that Drew Dober could recover and do stuff. The ref was giving him a lot of chances. I don't hate the stoppage at all. But Manuel Torres got him out of there in a very clean, made it look easy in the first round. So, good for him. 23 significant strikes to 3. Manuel Torres dominated this fight and finished Drew Dober. Sadly for Drew Dober, I did want him to win. He needs to stick to fighting his bread and butter matchups, which we won't get into. Next, Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg, the main event. So, this sucked for me because I picked Steve Erceg to win because he looked insanely good against Pantoja. I feel like he got caught against Kai Kara-France. He took everything that Brandon Moreno had for him, and I will say that, even though with some scares in the first round, which made me very nervous. But Steve Erceg is gun-shy after these fights. After the Pantoja loss, which was razor thin, and he probably sold it himself. Like, he sold the fight for himself with some bad decision-making. and then Kai Kara-France caught him bad and chinned him. I'm sure he came into this fight very nervous. Also, Steve Erceg, I hate to say it, but he doesn't strike me as the guy that has the actual fighter in him. Even with his backstory and stuff, and I'm pretty sure his coach is his dad. It's just like, it's all respect to that whole dynamic, but I don't feel like he has the fighter's fighter in him. He's not like, he doesn't have, he's like a Leon Edwards or a Corey Sandhagen or these fighters that just like to tit for tat and like to look good, but don't like to do what they need to do, or don't like to grit down. You compare, Leon Edwards is the best one because he's recent for me at least. Leon Edwards doesn't fight like he's wanting to, like, you know what I mean? He doesn't want to just actually fucking hurt somebody, and neither does Steve Erceg. And that's what it looked like. Steve Erceg never threw a punch with any intent, and Brandon Moreno was. The first round, the entire fight, but especially in the first round, Brandon Moreno was throwing mean overhand rights the entire time, and he was landing every single time. I would hate to fight Brandon Moreno because it would be a pain in the ass, because he is balled up, and he's always moving his head, and he's like squatted down, and he's always moving, so it's hard to hit him. And then he wings some shit, or he wings a right hand you have to evade, and then he hacks your leg to death. It would be really annoying to fight Brandon. And he's good at grappling. It would just be a pain in the ass. And his chin's indestructible. Brandon Moreno is very hard to beat. So it's impressive that Brandon Royval and Pantoja and Figueiredo did what they did. But Steve Erceg, he had the, I feel like he has the striking, he has the skill, he just doesn't have the will to go in there and fucking battle. So, first round, Brandon Moreno clearly wins, just hitting him better. He wobbles him, he like almost rocks him a couple times with these shots, these big right hands. And Steve Erceg looks timid. Second round, Steve Erceg's doing a lot better. I thought he was going to get momentum. I thought he was going to keep building and he was going to get more comfortable. And I thought he was going to start really teeing off. That just never happened. The second round, he definitely landed a ton. And he landed more than Brandon in the second, I'm pretty sure. But Brandon's landing better. I probably gave Steve Erceg the second round, but I was also probably being biased. But I feel like if you won any round, I feel like it would be the second or the third. But I'm pretty sure I gave Brandon Moreno the third. I thought he did better. Just Steve Erceg wasn't throwing anything with any power at all. It was just sad to see. He was kicking him very lightly and dumb, and he was hitting Brandon Moreno in the guard whenever you'd kind of hunch in and close to him. And everything Brandon Moreno hit him with was hard, and he like wanted to hurt him. And that was the difference maker. In the third and the fourth round is pretty close too, that I might have given to Steve Erceg. But in hindsight, Brandon was doing better, and if I was rooting for Brandon, I'd say that was a clear fucking round for him. So I'm not going to say Steve Erceg won that round. And then the fifth, Brandon did the same thing. No urgency at all from Steve Erceg. Brandon Moreno just pushing forward, throwing better strikes, mean leg kicks, body kicks, crazy right hand, and peppering his jab. He just did everything as good as he needed to win. He was doing everything perfect. Steve Erceg didn't do what he needed to do. He didn't adjust. And yeah, that's about that. And it's really annoying because I like Steve Erceg a lot, and I think he's cool. And yeah, it sucks. But Brandon Moreno looks pretty good. And I hate fucking Brandon Moreno. I'm not going to lie. Brandon Moreno is like, everybody likes him, and I know I don't get it. I really don't get it. Because I hate Brandon Moreno. I think he's so cringe. Like the dumbass thing he did after he got his hand raised. And I'm not opposed to liking Legos and everything, but oh God, I think he's just a cringe lord. So I would have rather had Steve Erceg win, but it's whatever. So this card was pretty good. Those are my thoughts, and that's the recap. I'll see you soon.